Hello everyone, I'm Al Degan, creator and producer of the Leaders, Innovators, and Big Ideas podcast, supported by Rainforest Alberta. This podcast showcases the people who are working to improve Alberta's innovation ecosystem. In this episode, I have the pleasure of talking with one of the coolest dudes around. Enjoy my chat with Alberta Innovate's Jon Hagan. Please be sure to stick around after the end of the show credits to hear one of the songs Jon and his band created titled Shunned. Now let's do this. Hey everybody, welcome to the Leaders, Innovators, and Big Ideas podcast. Today I have one of the coolest people I've ever met, Jon Hagan. Jon, thanks for being here.
Hey Al, my pleasure. I love hanging out and chatting with you, and we haven't had enough opportunity to sit down and talk a lot, but every time we do, I quite enjoy it.
Thank you. Appreciate that. So, Jon, there's so much to unpack. Maybe before we get into the really businessy type stuff, maybe we could talk a little bit about some of the other cool stuff you've done, because, and I want to highlight, you have a rock band. And it's called The Plugs. And you also wrote a children's book for your son, which I think is just so cool. And so maybe we could talk a little bit about where you came from and how you got to where you are today. But
for sure,
maybe talk a little bit about some of the fun stuff, because you're a super creative guy.
Oh, well, thanks for saying that. I think creativity has always been a real important part of my approach to life. I think when I was, do you want me to go way back?
Yeah, go all
I was
the
born
way.
February 19th, 1970 in a dark, dreary night. So for the longest time, I was bitten by the guitar bug when I was about 12. And at that time I decided, well, I'm going to be a rock star. And so that's all I focused on, was guitar playing and looking like a rock star. Now, for those of you that don't know me, I don't look like a rock star. In my 30s, I think I was hit by a male pattern baldness and a receding hairline, and that put an end to my rock career. Superficial types, aren't we?
Absolutely.
But I've always been playing and I've always been writing. Actually, let me backtrack. I've always been playing. I not necessarily have always been writing. I was influenced by a dear friend of mine, Neil MacDonald, who's a fantastic, amazing Edmonton musician. And he goes way back. He's got punk roots, and he and I have known one another forever. So I've always been influenced by him, and he really kind of taught me how to write, although our writing styles are very different. He taught me about starting very basic. Just don't worry about complicating things with chords and crazy melodies. Just write. Mm-hmm. And so that kind of approach of being simplifying things is an important lesson, I think, right across any field you're working in. Start with the germ of an idea and then build out from there. And so I've been writing music probably since my mid 30s, and I'm 36 now. That's cue laughter.
I was just going to say, wait a minute. You
Your face was like, what?
You and I have almost the exact birthday. I'm on the 25th and I was born in 1970 as well. So.
Oh man, we're like twins.
Yeah, practically.
Yeah. So folks, remember that. February 19th for me and February 25th for Al.
Yeah. We expect really expensive presents.
Right. Yeah, totally. Or at least, hashtags on any social posts around that time.
That would work.
Yeah.
That would work.
Yeah. So I've been playing and writing. And then when I was in university, I really got bitten by the English bug and the writing bug. And I did my degree in English and physics. So I was really motivated to turn this book that was written by a physicist in the 30s called George Gamow, and he had written a book called Mr. Tompkins' Universe. And the whole premise of this book was this guy goes to a physics lecture and, as most people do, falls asleep while the prof is talking, and he starts to dream of all of these physical constants changing, like the speed of light going down from the speed it is to like 30 kilometers an hour. Planck's constant to becoming like 5 as opposed to this really tiny, tiny number. And then he would describe the changes you'd see. And I thought, oh, that's killer. I'm going to get my English degree and my physics minor, and I'm going to rewrite this as a graphic novel. and I'm going to excite everybody. I'm going to be the next Carl Sagan. So, as often things happen, I went, yeah, that's a great plan. I didn't get much beyond the thinking and the excitement part. I did get the education, which was good.
Mm-hmm.
But then I kind of shelved the book idea. But I kept writing all sorts of like short stories and stuff. And a few years back, my son was really into this cartoon called The Octonauts. And we'd watch this every morning. And his name is August, and we always call him Og or Augie. So I always called the Octonauts the Ogtonauts. And I had a really talented coworker with me at the time at Alberta Innovates, and I'm like, I really want to write a book. And she's like, great, I'm going to draw it. And it was like, I didn't have to convince her of anything. She's just like, let's do it.
Oh, cool.
So when you get that sort of buy-in from somebody, it's one thing to do it yourself, but when someone else is like cheering you on, it's like, okay, I'm going to do it.
Oh, yeah. Good motivation.
Yeah, totally. I started to grind through this book, and I got into a groove. And then once it was done, I passed it along to her. And Susan Shaw is her name, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
I believe she's since retired, but she's an amazing artist. And she just plowed through these beautiful watercolor drawings. And I was floored because it was like, she took an idea I had and she really ran with it and did this beautiful art that's in the book. And we self-published and we split the earnings. And I think we made about $23,
Success.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and we all measure success differently, but really for me, success was like printing the book, getting a hardcover version of this. It was like, I created this. I did this in partnership with someone else.
Yeah.
And it's same with the plugs. When we recorded a 6-song EP, it's a lot of work to do an album. It's a lot of work to write songs and then to work with a group of people and kind of translate your idea so they understand it. And then they interpret it the way they're going to interpret it. And they add their 2 cents. And the next thing you know, you go and you record, you do all that overdubbing and all that stuff, post-production, mastering, and then you've got this product. And now, music is slightly different in terms of distribution. As we all know, it's now mostly digital.
Mm-hmm.
So, the last time I'd gone into a studio and recorded, we did a cassette.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's just, the world's changed in terms of creativity and, book publishing, self-publishing, all the recording equipment you have at your fingertips.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a studio at my home on the same computer you and I are chatting on right now.
Yes.
I've got Logic Pro in that, and it's incredible.
Wow.
That was a long-winded answer.
No, that was
Did
perfect.
I answer the question?
No, that was perfect. Yeah, that was perfect. And then somewhere along the line, while you were doing all this fun and exciting stuff, you got into a business role.
Mm-hmm.
And for those who don't know you, and I'm surprised if there's anybody that doesn't know you, but for those who don't know you, so you're with Alberta Innovates.
That's correct, yeah.
And I love this. You said in your LinkedIn bio, you said inspiring impact through innovative storytelling and strategic partnerships. So that sort of gives me and the audience a little bit of an idea of what you do, but maybe you could kind of elaborate on that a bit.
For sure. So I've been with Alberta Innovates for a little more than 12 years now. And, there's been a lot of change, but as with an organization whose focus is innovation, you're not static. You don't say status quo for long. You change, you try to adapt. And my focus in kind of my business life with Alberta Innovates is very similar to my focus in my personal life, which is create content, create ideas, build things, celebrate creativity and stories in personal life, celebrate other people's stories in my business life, and I've always been very intrigued by entrepreneurs and researchers who can just, again, like music and storytelling, putting their nose to the grindstone and working on an idea until it comes to fruition. And then hopefully that idea creates some spin-off effect where there's, jobs created, IP created. That's exciting. That's cool stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
And that I really love talking to people about it and shining a light on it.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And part of that is you've created or I don't know if you created it, but you do the Shift podcast for Alberta Innovates.
Yeah. So Shift podcast, we've been in production now for 5 years. It's bi-weekly, bi-monthly. Twice a month? What is that?
Okay.
Bi-weekly, bi-monthly?
I think that's bi-weekly, yeah. Yeah.
So it's a bi-weekly podcast. And originally it started out with a colleague of mine, Katie Burnett, who had started it with another colleague of ours, and they were going to run with it. But this other colleague ended up getting an opportunity to go to a school, post-secondary in Sweden.
Oh, interesting.
So he went, okay, post-secondary in Sweden or starting a podcast right from square one. And, whether he chose wisely or not.
Some podcasters might argue he picked the wrong choice.
Potentially. You and I might say, I don't know. Yeah. So he went to Sweden, and Katie said, hey, look, we're looking at launching this podcast. Do you want to participate? And I was in from day one.
Right.
I loved the idea, again, of, wow, a different way of storytelling for me.
Yeah.
Because typically it's always been, writing for me. And to be able to actually talk to someone like this, beyond an interview, but I don't have to turn it into a story afterwards.
Yeah.
There was something that was cool about that. You have to be more deliberate in your questions and strategic in your questions, because you want the audience to kind of go along on a bit of a journey with you.
Yes.
About it.
Yeah.
And then, of course, as you know, you want to take content and turn that into something else, maybe some social posts, maybe a story. And it's great for that too.
Right on. That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Shift podcast is, as you mentioned, has been around for quite some time. So I'll link to it in the show notes so that everybody can listen to that one. Please keep listening to ours still, but go ahead and listen to Shift as well.
Yes. There, we're a small province,
yeah.
And there's, we're doing some killer things, and get the news from all of us.
That's right. 100%.
Absolutely.
That's cool. And through Alberta Innovates, which most people know who Alberta Innovates is because they're like one of the main business funders, I guess, in Alberta, and they do some really exciting things. And they also support a lot of other organizations like the RIN, the CIC, and I believe the Edmonton RIN as well.
Yep.
So
8 regional innovation networks in the province, that we support. So yeah, and it's more than just funding, Al. And as you know, we've got technology development advisors that work in each of these regional innovation networks with the entrepreneurs. So there's that frontline service and support as well.
Absolutely.
But yeah, we're another cog in the Alberta machine.
Absolutely. Yeah. And thank you for being one of the cogs, because it's really beneficial to everybody to be able to have that kind of support. And then one of my favorite things is the Inventures Conference, and I know you're always there, and you've had different levels of involvement in that. Can you talk a little bit about where Inventures came about and maybe how it's grown?
Yeah, for sure. So Inventures started as an idea that our previous CEO Laura Kilcrease had I think 8 or 9 years ago, and the idea was to bring together an event. To create an event or a space where people could come and celebrate Alberta innovation, Alberta research, Alberta business in the technology realm primarily. And we've been going strong since day one. We had a couple of years where we went online due to the pandemic, and even then it was we managed to really bring in a lot of people. We had a lot of great presentations and speakers, and a lot of attendees, and a lot of really good feedback. And I think, and this year it's going strong again, Inventures 2025. We have bumped it over. We used to be in the TELUS Convention Center, but we honestly we were bursting at the seams.
Yeah.
And we needed to, as great as that space was, and as great as those people were and that location was, there's a demand for more. And we've got our appetites to sink into this innovation business and really celebrate it. So to do it, justice was to, move to a bigger space.
Yeah. So,
and, so this year it's going ahead and looking forward to participating again.
Yeah. So cool.
Maybe you'll be there as well, and you and I can
absolutely
do a double whammy podcast.
That would be so fun. I would love to do that.
That would be fun. Totally.
It's at the new BMO Center development.
That's right.
I'm excited. I haven't been down there yet. So, I've been down there, but not to the new area. So,
right. We went there once as part of we had to go do some scouting, and I was floored. It's a beautiful space, and it's It's a large space, and it's one of these spaces that's continuing to develop.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, while we might have a few hiccups as to be expected when you move into something new, and I think it's really going to be awesome.
Oh yeah.
A great way to celebrate the Alberta innovation.
Absolutely.
So, and folks.
It's a big deal. Like, I think it's, if it's not one of the largest things happening in Calgary, it's definitely close to it, because last year when I went to it, it was like you were at this big rock star Apple premiere kind of thing. And there was like lights all over the place and loud rock music, and everybody, it was fantastic. And didn't you have something like 4,000 people last year?
I believe we had plus 4,000.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember the specific number, but it's over the course of the 2.5 days. To get that number of people that are coming through the event. Yeah. But you're right. It had that energetic environment, and oftentimes I'd hear people make comments like, you can get like a month's worth of networking done in a day at Adventures, because honestly, like, you're very kind. And when you say people know who I am, but I'll tell you, like, when you're there, and you're talking to an entrepreneur, researcher, anybody, it's like people are like, hey, what's going on? And let's meet for 10 minutes and, have a chat about this or that. And it's incredibly productive, energizing, inspiring. And it's great to just connect with people across the ecosystem. And of course, we bring people in from outside the ecosystem, speakers. Marcus Collins last year speaking about marketing was unreal.
That was great.
And all I just drew a blank. As soon as I said Marcus Collins, all the other names just went, just left my skull. So
well, I'm not good at remembering names in the first place, but there was some incredible guests, and even the year before there was some Michikaku. That was such a cool presentation. Yeah.
And being a physics geek, being a guy that could never quite do a major in physics, it was really cool to kind of hang out with him for a moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember, like, I was really nervous. What do you say to a guy that built an atom smasher in his garage when he was like 8? I was like, so, are there quantum black holes? It's just like thinking things up, combining words that, from physics, in hopes that he'd be like, oh, what a fascinating question. But he was like, I'm not sure. Do you know what time lunch is?
Oh, that's
no,
funny.
He was great though. He was pretty neat.
Yeah, it's got to be unusual being beside somebody of that stature and an accomplished person like that, and being able to say, like, how do you strike up? Because even someone who's really good like yourself at having conversations, you're still kind of like, your brain is probably still saying, oh, I don't want to say it sounds stupid, or I should probably think of a good, thoughtful question.
Right. I want to make a good impression. Yeah. Well, no, and you're the same though, Al. You're like, you've got that ability to, ask good questions and participate in good conversation. And my only thing is, in my head, I'm like, screw it. You might come across as a doughhead, but oftentimes my approach, even in a room full of people, is like, I got this question in mind. I bet you there's at least one more person in here that has it. That has a similar question.
Yeah, there always is.
And 9 times out of 10, if anything, it generates more conversation.
Yeah.
Whether it breaks the ice or, and you got to think that these people who are really accustomed to doing these keynotes and all that, are they really comfortable getting up in front of 4,000 people and talking?
Right. Yeah. I mean, sometimes they do it so much that it probably becomes a lot more comfortable. But can you imagine the first time?
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, Al, I still get in before every podcast, I have butterflies.
Yeah.
So it's human nature, I think.
It truly is. Yeah. But no, that's cool. And I have to ask you, whenever I see you, you're wearing something loud, something colorful, a really interesting hat. Like you stand out in a room. Is that fully intentional, or do you just enjoy it?
I really enjoy it.
Yeah.
I've often thought women have more fun with clothes. And it's not to say I'm always dressed like that. I think today I'm dressed very
conservatively,
with my Irish sports jacket. But I think there's fun to be had with it.
Yeah.
And when people will automatically go, well, you're an extrovert, and certainly part of me is an extrovert, but no human is one thing, and there's parts of me where I'm like, I don't want to stick out, but then I just remind myself that I have fun.
Yes.
Dressing. I don't, maybe I'm not the most color coordinated guy. And my wife will always comment on that. You're not wearing that today, are you? I'm like, I gotta go. Bus is coming.
That's great. No, I love it. I think it's brilliant. And, I think of people like Jade Alberts, who has the really crazy shoes that he's always wearing some wild pair of shoes, It's great to stand out. And I wanted to comment on the comment you made earlier about being able to have fun with it. And so what if you ask a silly question, like, does it really matter? No one ever, thinks about it. And whenever I've had to do public speaking, sometimes in my head, I'm like, oh, that sounded so stupid. Everybody must think I'm an idiot or whatever. And then after I'm done, everybody, comes over and starts talking to me and they're like, oh my God, that was so good. Thank you for, and I'm like, oh, it was? So you didn't notice?
Yeah. Well, we're our own worst critics.
Yeah.
There've been multiple times where I've played shows, when I sang the completely wrong lyrics. I hit an F sharp. I was supposed to hit a G, and I think I'm going to get off stage or something and people are going to be like, wow, you suck. And that's happened.
Yeah.
But, for the most part, people it's the energy, it's the, it's the vibe. And, sometimes there's an expression, fake it till you make it, that we've all heard. Make what? I don't know. But oftentimes you just fake it through the day. You put a smile on your face, go out there and impact your community with positivity.
Yes.
As best you can.
Yeah.
There's far too much negativity out there. This doesn't mean I'm always positive. I can be negative too.
Well, you are human, last I checked.
So. Right. So just have fun with life.
Yeah. Absolutely. Oh, I don't know how to follow that. That was brilliant. No.
Well, let me ask a question here. As you know, for those of you listening, we can see each other. We're video recording the conversation, which I find wonderful. But you've got some pictures behind you.
Ah, yes. So
what's that?
It's unfortunate for the guests because although we can see each other, I'm only recording audio. But when I was a kid, I used to go to comic book stores a lot, and I had an account, and they would put certain comic books in my little box, and I'd go pick them up. And one day they had Todd McFarlane at the shop.
What?
And so those of you who don't know, Todd McFarlane is a very famous comic book artist. He actually wrote Spider-Man and many others like Infinity Inc.
Spawn.
Yeah. And yes, and he did Spawn, and he has the toy company McFarlane Toys that makes the Spawn and hockey characters and stuff like that. But the dude was there and he had all of these comic book pages. So back in the day, before everything was digital, they had these like big cardboard pages that they would actually draw the art on, and they're black and white. And so he does his work in a blue pencil, and then the inker or whatever they call him goes over it in black and sort of refines all the lines and stuff. And so he had this big stack of these things, and he was giving, or I can't remember if he was giving away or selling them. I think he was selling them, but to make a long story short, I bought 2 of them and he signed them.
Wow.
And on the back of one of those, which is he actually drew just for fun. He was doodling and he drew Mysterio. So it's like this really cool picture of Mysterio on the back.
All these
it was really cool. I'm very proud of those 2 pictures. But I mean that was when he was just getting started for the most part. Yeah,
that's a fantastic story because I've always been a huge Todd McFarlane fan. And incidentally, he was at one time a co-owner of the Edmonton Oilers.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think he had like a small percentage. And an incidental comment, Al, you're in Calgary.
Yeah.
And I'm in Edmonton. So it's like Do we need to have a Calgary Flames, Edmonton Oiler virtual scrap or no?
Possibly not, because neither of them is really doing us any
right
justice.
Well, fair enough. Okay. But, I think after I heard your story, I'm like, you and I are more and more like twins, because I used to do the same thing. We've got very similar birthdays. I used to go to comic stores and they'd have a little file. You'd go, these are the comic books I'm interested in. Every month when the new ones would come out, they'd put them in there.
Yeah.
And I think your story of Todd, though, is wonderful about, just creation and entrepreneurialism, because, Todd's an artist and an entrepreneur as well.
Yeah.
And that's, you're doing whatever you can to get your name out there, to promote your, promote your content, promote what you produce in your business. And that was Todd, at the comic book store selling these pictures, which I imagine are probably worth a small fortune right now.
Oh, maybe. I wouldn't sell them.
Yeah, no, I can't imagine. But if you ever do, shoot me an email.
Nice. Just for fun, I'll tell you another Todd McFarlane story, because I used to, I am a photographer. I used to do it quite a bit more than I do now, but I was working for the Calgary Comic and Entertainment Expo, and I got involved with the photography team there, where we took photos of all the guests with their fans.
Okay.
And the guests being like the famous people, right? The actors and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And Todd McFarlane he never came to the photo booth, so I didn't get a chance to do any photography with him, but we were staying in the same hotel. And so on the very last day, when we were going to be heading home, I was sitting in the lobby, and there was this really nice elderly man sitting there, and he's just like the friendliest guy I've ever met in my life. And he's chatting away and blah, 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 blah. And he goes, and I said, oh, so what are you here on a holiday or whatever? And he goes, oh, no, my son's doing that comic convention thing. And I'm like, oh, is that right? And he says, yeah. And I said, I am as well. I'm a photographer. And he goes, oh, cool. And I said, who's your son? And he said, Todd McFarlane. And I'm like, no way. I actually met him when I was a little kid. And he goes, oh, he'll be right down. I'll make sure he gets to chat with you. So I had another little conversation with him, and he was busy. He had things to do, but he did take a couple minutes to say hi. And I mentioned that I got his artwork from when I was a little kid and stuff. And he was quite nice about it. So
that's really cool. Yeah. No kidding. Yeah. He's a talented artist for sure.
Definitely. Cool. So, I guess before we wrap up, is there anything that I didn't address that would be fun to let the listeners know about?
Well, I don't want to plug pitch. Plug pitch. Pitch. I don't even know what I'm saying. Yes, he's so eloquent. I don't want to plug Shift too much, but
you should.
We're going to be the Alberta Innovates is working on a new strategic plan, and I'm hoping to have Mike Mon, our interim CEO, on very soon to talk about that, and we should get him on your show too.
That would be great.
We'll double team from different angles and different questions.
Yeah,
but again, Alberta Innovates is a partner within the ecosystem. We're all excited about working in the ecosystem and with service providers and with the other organizations and entrepreneurs and researchers. And let's keep going and celebrating Alberta.
Absolutely. Yeah. Alberta's really been highlighted a lot over the last 3 or 4 years. I mean, it's always been working towards it, but lately it's been really shining, and I'm really proud to be an Albertan. Yeah,
me too. I'm with you, Al.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for being here, John. It was absolute pleasure. But it's been a long time coming for sure. And keep up the good work.
Thanks, Al. This was totally my pleasure. Thanks for having me, and you keep up the good work.
You're kind. Cheers. All right, everyone. We'll talk to you next week on the Leaders, Innovators, and Big Ideas podcast. Cheers. If you haven't already, visit rainforestab.ca and sign the Rainforest Social Contract. Become part of the inclusive, silo-busting, sector-agnostic, all-industry, open-sourced, ego-shrinking, ecosystem-building, entrepreneur-focused, wide-open social barrier-smashing community known as Rainforest Alberta.
This episode is brought to you by New Idea Machine, a unique blend of a tech incubator and a software development powerhouse. We're not just building software, we're crafting the next generation of homegrown tech wizards. Got a project in mind or looking to hire fresh talent? Reach out and let's make tech magic happen. Visit newideamachine.com for more info.
Music for the show was created by Tony Degan. Please be sure to share this episode with everyone you know. Also, don't forget to come by and say hi at the next Rainforest event. Let us know what you think of this podcast. If you're interested in being either a host, sponsor, or a guest of the show, send me an email at rainforestpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks for listening.